All right, Luke, start the episode.
Me start
Well, because you want to be all like all expert all the time, bro, and I'm the casual, bro. You go ahead. It's your episode, your show,
This is my show.
your show,
So the roles are reversed today.
bro. Because you want to get all your picks right, bro. You want to be a jerk about it, bro. Fine.
Oh, someone's salty about the Drew Dover
It's fine,
knockout.
bro. It's fine.
Oh, here we go. Someone's salty.
Whatever, bro. This is no casuals, bro. I'm with Luke. You know this, bro. Uh, bro, 316. They announced 316, bro. It was cool. What did you
Oh,
think
he's a
about the
different.
316 announcements, Luke?
You know, you're a different. First of all, we just gotta talk about this. In the last episode, we all know what happened. Everyone knows what happened. The world knows what happened. And I was shamed. I was shamed. This is not the first time it's happened, And I was shamed on in public, by Aiden Boyer. This is not the first time, but thankfully the recording was not lost, and we have the proof and the evidence that I came out on top. But I don't hold a grudge. I don't hold a grudge here on No Casuals. I've been wrong plenty of times. And I maybe I got lucky. Maybe I saw something that Aiden didn't. But we're back, and this is UFC Fight Night. Josh Emmett versus Lerone Murphy. We're also going to discuss some of the other news that went down. So 316 just got announced, and O'Malley is going to rematch against Merab, and then Pena and Harrison is confirmed for a co-main event. So two title fights in Newark, New Jersey. Definitely maybe a questionable rematch, but I think a much needed women's bantamweight fight. I would have loved to see Jan versus Merab. I would have loved to see Pantoja versus Merab. But I understand the rematch from the UFC's perspective, giving like their flashy superstar that they thought they had one more shot on home turf, basically, in Newark. And I also saw that Sean kind of changed some of his lifestyle habits following the loss. But I just don't think that's going to matter. I don't know how people are going to see that this could be a completely different fight. How could it be? How could it be any different? How could Merab smothering O'Malley in any way? How could that verdict change? I don't know how. But what do you think, Aiden?
All right. Well, now that we're talking about real bit, now that we've moved on from last week's nightmare, really, it was a nightmare. We can talk about this event. So here's the thing: is that O'Malley has no business fighting Rob Bosvili. None. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It doesn't make any sense. However, we know O'Malley's a star, and we know that he can catch you with a big shot. We know he can land a punch. We know Merab has a chinny tendency. So what we're looking at is we're looking at a stylistic matchup that's interesting, like the first fight. However, I said going into the first fight, we might have had this actually on tape in one of our first episodes, but I said like Merab wins 8 out of 10 fights and O'Malley knocks him out in the other 2, right?
Yep.
I think that the UFC is rolling the dice, hoping that they can get in that minority and get a win out of O'Malley and get a huge superstar. So they think that they don't think they have right now, which I disagree with. I think there's plenty of stars in the roster and plenty of guys you can build up that aren't O'Malley, that are better than O'Malley, that are better personalities than O'Malley. But that's just my 2 cents. They seem to think that O'Malley is the future, so we will see how he fares. For the co-main event, I think that's going to be a complete wash. I don't think that fight's going to be close at all. I think Kayla Harrison is insanely talented. I think she is one of the best female martial artists ever.
Yep.
And despite the fact she's never held a UFC title, I think she beats every woman on the planet right now. Honestly, pound for pound, I think. Like she beats Shevchenko at 135, and she beats Zhang Weili. Well, Zhang Weili could never make 135, so it's kind of a moot point. But what I'm saying is Harrison is probably going to do whatever she wants to Juliana Pena. And here's the thing with Juliana Pena is that she has that grit, that sort of tenacity that champions only have that we haven't seen out of Kayla Harrison yet in her career. But that can only get you so far. We saw that in the first 2 Amanda Nunes fights. The first fight, Pena out-hearted Nunes. She just outgrinded her and won that fight and submitted the greatest female martial artist of all time, maybe the greatest martial artist of all time. In the rematch, with Nunes coming with a different mentality, the fight was completely different, and Nunes wiped the floor with Pena. I anticipate a similar thing that we see with Harrison, but don't count Pena quite out. Pivoting, I'm gonna start to take control back now that we've moved on. Ian Gary is back at the end of this month at UFC Kansas City against Carlos Prates. Now, this is a kickboxer's delight, Luke.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you to give your pick yet because this fight is actually pretty soon. So we'll wait a couple weeks on that. But what do you think about this match? Do you think it makes sense for Prates to fight someone this high up yet?
Um, I think the prior fight with Jeff O'Neal was great matchmaking, but this is just even if he doesn't deserve it, it's so exciting, and I think that it's just a bigger fight. I think there's way more implications of this fight than the Jeff O'Neal fight. And if Prates were to win, I mean, he would skyrocket in the welterweight ranking. So this is a much more rewarding matchup if he wins. And to be honest, him losing will just solidify the fact that Ian Gary is still a legit welterweight contender. And that would also boost him up to someone that people are talking about to get a title shot soon. Especially after his last fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov, which was relatively close for what people thought it was going to be.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think this is a very competitive fight. That's what I'll say. I won't give my prediction, but what I will say is Prates against Neil Magny looked unstoppable. I mean, he looked world class, belt him right now type of thing. Jeff Neal is interesting because Jeff Neal stylistically played to his strengths, but also was a very competitive matchup and has given problems to a lot of the top 5 and 7 in the division. The problem is that Ian Gary is still a little bit untested, in my opinion. I mean, he did bad things to Neil Magny when they fought. He did bad things to Jeff Neal when they fought. He did bad things to Shavkat Rakhmonov to an extent when they fought. But still, the only real legitimate championship level opponent he's fought is Shavkat Rakhmonov, who he lost to, right? So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup because you have a guy that's coming off the first loss of his career, and we're looking to see how he recovers, how he rebounds, if he can show that championship medal that I think Ian Gary does have. I think he does have championship potential. But he's facing a guy like Carlos Prates, who I also think has championship potential. So the Kansas City fans are in for an absolute treat. Next, UFC 317 International Fight Week in June. Brandon Royval is back against Manel Kape in a rebooking of what was supposed to be an Apex fight night a couple months ago. Now it is in front of a crowd, which I think is a great decision. Since we're a little bit far out, do you have an early prediction here, Luke, or do you lean in the favor of waiting, anticipation?
Yeah, I think I want to wait, even though I think both these guys, nothing's really going to change. I mean, the next couple weeks, for what I know about them, it's a great number one contender fight, and I think that this is a striker's not dream matchup, but it's definitely going to be some close striking exchanges. And I'm glad we see this fight after it was canceled all the way back in March, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I mean, I'm very glad that this is not going to be like an Apex headliner or something like that. It deserves to be in front of a crowd. And with Manel Kape coming off of a fabulous win against Almabayev, I couldn't see more of a great matchup for him.
Yeah, I completely agree. And while you were speaking, I actually got a message from the boss man himself, Ted Linden, who said he's out to breakfast and when his deadline is to turn in the TED Talk. um, so he's with us in spirit, guys. He'll be back next week, we promise. And also, this just came out before we get to the Manel Kape fight. Wayne Kong is fighting Ariana Da Silva at UFC 316 in Newark.
Oh,
Good fight. I think Kong takes that one.
yeah.
On the Royval front, I mean, we know what Royval is. We know how good he is. We know how tested he is. We know the type of guy he is. We just have to see if Kape is at a Pantoja or Moreno or an elite top 15 in pound for pound level. Because Royval beats everybody who's not a top 15 pound for pound fighter. He does. He's great. He's a great number one contender. But he always comes up just short of these incredible champions that he's had to face. Figueiredo, Moreno, Pantoja, three of the four greatest in the history of the division. He's fought two of them for championships, I believe. I don't. He fought Royval, or he fought Figueiredo. I don't believe that's for the chip. So we have to see if Manel Kape is on that level, but we know what Royval is going to bring. We know what he's going to bring. So I think that's an interesting fight. I've got Royval taking it actually by a decision, but Kape shocked me in the Almabayev fight. I did not think he was very good. I thought he was fighting weaker opponents, and he did really, really well against a guy who I thought was going to be a world champion in Almabayev. So I'm excited to see how this fight plays out, and I'm ready to be partially wrong. One more fight, Luke. I want you to do most of the talking here, because this is your turf. Edmund Shabazian is fighting Andrei Petrosky in Atlanta on June 14th. What do you think about that matchmaking? What do you think about that matchmaking for Petrosky?
Yeah, it's super exciting. It is my home turf. He's I don't know how far his where he is from me, but he lives somewhere in Pennsylvania. Fighting out of I think Springfield.
He fights out of Philly. He fights out of Market.
Yeah,
He trains with Pfeiffer and Brady and them.
okay, yeah, yeah.
That gym. Yeah.
So yeah, of course I'm going to side with Petrosky. But it's a little, it makes me a little bit nervous. Seeing some of the power that Edmund has. But that, I don't know. This is just a great matchmaking for Atlanta following 3-7 or following 317 I think or 316. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, if you watch Petrosky's fight against Michelle Pereira, it's a red flag if you're a fan of Petrosky, which both of us are on this show. But if Shabazian cannot be weird enough to mess up Petrosky's movements, almost, I think Petrosky takes this in a tactical match. Petrosky's an underrated striker, and he's one of the best grapplers at welterweight and at middleweight, or yeah, at middleweight. Um, he's one of the best grapplers in the division, one of the best grapplers in the UFC, in my opinion. So I think that he should take this, but I think Shabazian. I always get hesitant when I see a fighter that has lost in the way that Petrosky lost to Pereira. I get nervous about their next 5-7 fights, right?
Yep.
All right. Now I'm really taking control of this ship because we are going to next up one of our signature segment of the day, because fortunately Ted will not be with us this week, though he is with us in spirit, as I said before. Next up, we're going to jump right into it. Hold on. I have to remember how to do this.
All good.
Here we go. You see what's good?
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, we are back with next up. First up, Brandon Moreno should fight the winner of Brandon Royval versus Manel Kape.
Yes, ultimately because that Pantoja and Kai Kara France hasn't really been announced yet. It was rumored to be maybe on 316, but then I'm assuming it won't be, and it'll probably be on 317 or a later fight, or later event. So right now, I think this makes sense. I think there's some speculation that Moreno could get a title shot, but for me, it's just the playing around with Pantoja's victims, rematching them. It's just not that exciting for me. This is a more exciting fight.
And look, I feel like if Manel Kape gets the win here, I think there's a lot of arguments you can make to just give him the title shot outright.
Yeah.
But I think because Royval, I'd rather see him fight Moreno again in a fight night main event, or on 320 or something like that, and just have them really prove who the number one contender is at right now in 2025, so they can take the fight with Pantoja or Kara France in 26.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, Steve Erceg should fight Josh Van.
I mean, this is exciting. I think that, especially stylistically, this would give Erceg maybe more of a chance. And I don't know if Van were to get a win, this would also boost him up in the rankings. As I know, we both think that Joshua Van is a very exciting prospect. So absolutely, man, I would love to see this.
And look, I was having some trouble moving the puzzle pieces around for the bottom half of the flyweight division when I was making this. One of the problems was Ramzan Emirov just entered the top 15. He's number 13 right now, if I remember. And I wanted him to fight in the top 10 because he's an undefeated prospect. He's one of the best flyweights in the world. He beat Charles Johnson in a very impressive fashion. But I think stylistically, this matchup is more fun with more name value. You can put it on the main card of a pay-per-view, especially one of the Australian ones, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to go a different direction, you can have Van fight Almabayev and Erceg fight Emirov, but I think that Almabayev and Emirov stylistically are a better matchup, and Van and Erceg are a better matchup. That's just my 2 cents, but either way you shift it, you can make it work. Flyweight's a fun division right now. There's a lot of really good guys coming up. Manuel Torres, I just hit my mic. Manuel Torres should fight Nasrat Haqparast.
Yeah.
Now here's the problem for me. Is that Torres is an action fighter. So he should always be in front of a crowd and always should be against other action fighters. I want him against guys like Ribovic. I want him against guys like McKinney. I want to see him fight those guys. Chris Duncan. I want to see him fight the fun guys. But I want to see him get tested against a real high-level opponent. And Haqparast is that. Haqparast is coming off a couple... I think he's on a 5-fight win streak, but 3 of them are by split decision or something. It's something ridiculous like that. Very few good definitive wins, but he hasn't lost since 2022, Whereas Torres, I'm still really hesitant of putting all my eggs in that basket. After the Bahamondes loss, I think he should fight probably twice more before he fights for a ranked guy. But I think that Torres is. I don't know how to say. I think Torres is somewhat untested, as great as that double performance was, which we shouldn't really talk about on the show right now. But the double performance was incredible. I mean, it shocked me. I'm a huge fan of Torres now. Like I completely turned
I
face
can
on this guy.
I converted you.
I've been converted. But I do want to see him fight a legitimate top 15 level guy, a guy on a win streak first, before instead of fighting an older veteran like a King Green type of guy. So I think the Nasrat Hawk fight makes the most sense for both of them at this stage in their career.
Sure.
Just put it in front of a crowd. Put it on 320. Next up, Edgar Shires should fight Charles Johnson.
Yeah.
Right? Because Chires, here's my problem with this one, is that Chires is just outside of the ranks. Two of his UFC losses have come to Josh Van and Tetsuro Taira, who are two of the best flyweights in the world. But Charles Johnson did lose his last fight after going on a 5-fight win streak. And truthfully is one of my favorite flyweights to watch. He's very exciting. He's great grappling, great striking, really good at mixing things up. And Chires is the exact same way. This is an incredibly fun fight. It does exactly what both fighters need to do. I think if they made this fight, it would be fight of the night on almost any card you could build because of how exciting these two are.
Absolutely.
Next up, Raul Rosas Jr. should fight Ricky Simone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Because here's the thing is that Simone is been sort of inconsistent in his career, but I think he's better than Christian Rodriguez. Right? I do. And Rodriguez did beat Rosas Jr. handedly, and Simone looked incredible against Basharat, but Rosas looked so good in his last two fights. Since the Rodriguez loss, he's come alive. And I'm really, really eager to see where his career goes, but I want to see him fight one more time before he fights a top 15 bantamweight in the world.
Absolutely.
Kevin Borjas should fight the winner of Matt Schnell versus Jimmy Flick.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, not much to say here. I want Borjas fighting way up in the Tapology rankings because of how good that Rodriguez win was. But I don't want him to fight a ranked guy quite because, again, there's a huge crop of undefeated, unranked flyweights right now. But I do think that if Rodriguez win, he would have gotten straight into a rank shot. I think that giving Borjas the winner of Schnell and Flick will let him get kind of an easy highlight on either one of them. So I think that this will be a fun fight and will make Borjas into a bigger star than he is right now, which I think would be very good for the promotion. Next up, Lupe Godinez should fight the winner of Marina Rodriguez versus Jillian Robertson.
Is is Rodriguez Robertson a ranked fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Robertson's ranked, I think, 14th, and Rodriguez is like 7th. So the winner would probably be ranked around 9 or 8.
I feel like that makes perfect sense then.
Melquizael Acosta should fight William Gomis. Now, this one was hard to match because we have a similar problem in which one fighter is clearly less exciting than the other.
Right.
But with Costa doing what he's doing right now, I want to strap a rocket to him. So giving him a guy as good as Gomis on the feet will do good things for him in a way that a lot of more exciting, flashier contenders that might not have the technical repertoire would. So for me, I think this fight makes the most sense, even if it's not the most fireworks fight you could possibly make it featherweight right now. I think it's a great fight.
Yeah.
And Teba Gautier should fight Cesar Almeida.
Absolutely. And I have to say that this was my prospect of the night too. So I was really just on fire last week. But because I've seen people comparing him to the Ngannou of middleweight. That's what they're calling him. And I can't think of a better test than Cesar Almeida.
I think that's kind of racist, Luke. I think that they're very
because of his power. He did you see the shot?
There's more than two people in Cameroon, bro. He fights more. He fights. He doesn't even fight like Ngannou. He does. He's too fast. He's faster than Ngannou. He fights more like Cyril Gane.
A better version of Ngannou then.
Okay. Better version of one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Let's move on. This has been quite an episode, guys. Anyways, next up, fact or fake. Next up, fact or fake, one of our signature segments here. We're going to keep this one quick because we want to get into next week's fights. Fact or fake, Brandon Moreno deserves a title shot after his performance against Steve Erceg. We talked about this a little bit already, but if you want to get into it again, we can.
I think we covered it pretty much. I think we agree that he should probably fight the winner of Royval and Cobb.
Fact or fake, Manuel Torres is the most exciting lightweight on the planet.
I don't think I'd go as far as to say he's the most exciting, even though I was high on him. Not I don't even think he's the most exciting on the UFC roster. I think I like that he takes risks in the early rounds. Most of his wins and even his losses are in the first round. But I can't say that someone who's submitted by Ignacio Bahamondes is the most excited lightweight on the planet. Not at least not number one. I think Mauricio Marufi right now is more exciting to me, just because of the way I appreciate, the way he's getting his victories, maybe more impressive knockouts than Torres.
Yeah, I don't disagree. When I was writing this, I was thinking of like fan value more than excitement as who's gonna be the next champion. But I get where you're getting at there. I think Torres is in that conversation.
Yeah.
I think Esteban Ribovic, Terrence McKinney, Manuel Torres, Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker, those guys are all in that conversation. Dustin Poirier is in that conversation.
Yes.
Right? We're talking about all action fighters, and there's so many at lightweight because it's the perfect mix of strength and speed and technicality in a way that we don't really see in other divisions in mixed martial arts. So I'm going to say fake for now, but absolutely in that conversation, absolutely going to be a fan favorite for a few years here in the UFC. Fact or fake, the UFC flyweight division has the most unranked talent in the UFC roster.
I think I'm going to lead towards fact. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the ones that I can name, but Andre Lima, Rafael Estevam, Loner Kavanagh, who just fought, even Ronaldo Rodriguez, who kind of disappointed us. But there's so much unranked talent in the flyweight division.
Look, I'm gonna have to go fake here. I think that flyweight is an exceptionally underrated division at the bottom, if you will. The talent level is insane right now at flyweight, and the fact that the UFC was thinking about canning this division only 7 years ago is ridiculous. Considering how far it's come.
Yep, absolutely.
I think lightweight has 20 title contenders. I think bantamweight has 20 title contenders. I think Josie Aldo, one of the greatest featherweights of all time, is ranked at like 13 in the bantamweight division right now, and it's not even because he's bad. Like he's lost once in his return. Like he's good. Yeah. So I think that flyweight's in that conversation now for the first time ever, which is a huge moment for that division. But I think that the talent level at bantamweight and lightweight specifically might just be a little bit deeper. But I think that every other division, I think, is pretty clearly has less good unranked prospects than flyweight.
Yeah.
Speaking of featherweight, Melquizael Acosta is the most underrated featherweight in the UFC right now after his 2 back-to-back wins, one over Rodriguez and one over Touchy-Feely.
I'm gonna lean towards fact just because I think that he is really exciting, and seeing him win recently kind of surges my hype for him. Most underrated, like it's tough. I mean, I think Felipe Lima is kind of underrated. But besides that, no major names come to mind of underrated featherweights. So sure, I'll go with fact.
Bro, after a week like last week, I expect you to be like dialed in this week, and you're not. You're not dialed in because Steve Garcia is on a 5-fight knockout streak at featherweight in the UFC and is unranked right now. He's not ranked in the top 15 of a division where he has 5 knockouts in a row and he weighs less than 155 pounds. This isn't Sergey Pavlovich getting ranked 6th in the world after 5 knockouts in a row at 265 pounds. This is a guy who's not in the top 15 after 5 knockouts at 145 pounds. It's ridiculous. Steve Garcia should be the biggest unranked prospect in the UFC, possibly, with the way he's fighting right now. He's beaten so many good guys. I mean, look at Chase Hooper. Look, I'm sorry, I'm on a tangent right now, but look at Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper's looked incredible in his his last couple outings. He looks so good, and people are so excited to see what he does in the future. People are so excited to see what it looks like for him, and I am excited too because Chase Hooper is an elite mixed martial artist. I mean, if you look at his fight against Clava Claus, it was a dominant performance. Now watch Chase Hooper fight Steve Garcia. Watch Chase Hooper fight Steve Garcia. Garcia hasn't lost since that fight, and Garcia beat the mess out of Chase Hooper. He whooped him bad. He dropped him multiple times, knocked him out. What I'm saying is, Steve Garcia is far and away the most underrated featherweight in the UFC, and it's a competition for second place. And I think if there is a competition for second place, Costa's in that conversation. You know who else is in that conversation? Felipe Lima, like you said, absolutely one of the most underrated fighters on the planet. But far and away, in my opinion, Steve Garcia is the most underrated featherweight on the planet. I think if he fought Edson Barbosa, he would have knocked him out too. I'm a fervent believer in this guy and his power, which is otherworldly for the division. Speaking of otherworldly power at featherweight, is Josh Emmett the most powerful featherweight in UFC history? Fact or fake, Luke? Transition.
Yeah, beautiful transition. Yeah, I think he is. I don't think he's the most accurate, but when he does land, it's devastating. Now, the reason I think the point that makes it so that he's the most powerful featherweight in UFC history, which is really a designation of like when he hits someone, to what extent are they just to what extent is that knockout scary? And I think that the most recent knockout that he has is horrifying. He made Bryce Mitchell seize on the ground. I have never seen that before. He is the most powerful featherweight in UFC history. He made someone induce a seizure. I don't see how that could even be a competition.
No, look, I actually agree with you here, Luke. I think you're right. I think that there's better strikers that use their power more effectively.
Yes.
You have Ilia Topuria when he fought Josh Emmett, or Jeremy Stevens when he fought Josh Emmett. But if I have my hands tied behind my back and Ilia Topuria is punching me in the face, or Jeremy Stevens is punching me in the face, or Josh Emmett is punching me in the face, I think Josh Emmett might hurt me more than might damage me more than all three of them. I don't think any of them are gonna hurt me because I'm not gonna remember anything. But if he hit me, I would have the most long-term damage. So I think that yes, I think he is the most powerful by those parameters. Now, first, before we get into this weekend's card, I want to hear your prospects of the night, Luke.
Yep.
Do you have one ready? Who is he or she? Tell us their story a little bit.
Yeah, so I don't know actually much about him because you did take not to blame you, but I think you picked a great prospect of the night. I think Torres or whoever your prospect may be is a great prospect. But I'm gonna go with Luis Gurriel. He's 10-0. I really don't know much about him, but he's equally as talented on the ground as he is on the stand-up. And he's versing Adi Osborne, who has lost his last three matchups. This is kind of giving me the sense that UFC might be feeding him as maybe a highlight reel, setting up some sort of highlight reel spectacle this weekend. So stay tuned for him versus Adi Osborne.
Yeah, look, I mean, on that fight, this isn't in our notes, but I know enough about Ode Osborne and the way he fights to make a comment here. Ode Osborne is a great litmus test for the entire 125. I mean, he is an elite gatekeeper at this point. Like, he is Neo Magni. He is one of those guys. We are already running out of time on this episode. That is ridiculous. We already know what he is and how he works. I think he's going to be a very good test against your prospect. I think that he's going to win. I don't think Adi Osborne. I think Adi Osborne is going to lose, but I do think that Ode will be a good fight, and it'll be an interesting and entertaining fight. My prospect of the night, Torres Finney. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Not the most exciting fighter on the roster. He's not.
Yep.
He never has been, never will be. But his story is so impressive. I mean, he fought on the Contender Series and won. Dana White ripped him apart. He won in the LFA. Went back on the Contender Series, won again. Dana said, "You're not exciting enough, even though you submitted your opponent," which is ridiculous. We're going to give you another fight in 3 weeks. Take it on short notice. If you win that, then we'll let you in the UFC. He fought on Contender Series a record-making 3 times, won 3 times. He's now, 10-0 as a professional. And his wrestling is elite. He's fighting a great fighter, Robert Valentin. We're not going to talk about the matchup too much yet. I won't give you a prediction, although my prediction is that Finney will win. But yeah, I think that his story is incredible. He has the repertoire and the guys behind him to know that he's UFC level. I know this guy can hang with the best guys in the UFC, and I'm excited to see what he does. First, let's talk about our main event. Josh Emmett versus the guy we haven't talked about a lot today, Lerone Murphy, the undefeated prospect, climbing up the featherweight rankings. Another, in my opinion, very underrated featherweight, getting his first main event. Do you think that Josh Emmett should be a plus 260 underdog here? Or do you think that Murphy's getting a little bit blown up by the books, if you will?
I think that Lerone Murphy kind of deserves to be the favorite in this fight. I mean, he is much more well-rounded than Emmett in every aspect. I think that Emmett has kind of proven to be one-dimensional, and he has a brutal loss against Jeremy Stevens of all people. But to his credit, he survived against Ilia Topuria.
Wait, no, wait. Of all people, really? We're doing that? Jeremy Stevens?
Okay, sure, I'll give you your credit. Jeremy Stevens, good win for him.
It's a great win
Uh,
for Jeremy Stevens. I mean, Jeremy Stevens was the number one contender at one point. I don't want to hear that Jeremy Stevens is. I mean, like all personal qualms aside after the Eddie fight, Jeremy Stevens is a great mixed martial artist. So
sure,
that's
maybe
actually
there's some salt in the wound.
maybe we're both salty this week.
Yes. But he survived against Ilya. Emmett survived against Ilya. And Ramon Murphy, I could easily see him outpacing Emmett, keeping the distance so that Emmett doesn't land that overhand that kind of shuts him out. But I think that if Lerone Murphy gets cracked, the fight could just be over. I think that, when we saw him last fight against Dan Ige, Ige landed that one shot that I thought the fight was going to be over. And I think that if Josh Emmett lands even a punch that has a tenth of the power that Dan Ige has, it could just be over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, Murphy. That's the thing is Murphy has always been shitty. I mean, when he
Yeah.
fought Edson Barbosa, he got hurt pretty bad in the first round against Edson Barbosa. When he fought Dan Ige, he got hurt even worse. So to fight a guy like Josh Emmett is
Yeah.
terrifying. It's a stylistic nightmare for Murphy, but Murphy is a better technical kickboxer. I could see him outpacing him, like you said, for 5 rounds and just routing him to a decision 50-45, make it look easy, and keep moving his way up the division. Get a fight against a guy like maybe Arnold Allen next. We'll see. But if Emmett lands, I don't think Murphy's getting up. I don't. I know he's undefeated. I know he's never. I don't think he's getting up. Most humans wouldn't.
I think that's the main question for tonight's fights is just if Emmett lands.
Yeah. Or I mean, Emmett could out wrestle Murphy. Murphy's struggled with wrestling. Emmett can wrestle. Ground and pound. There's a lot of paths to victory for both fighters here tonight. That's what makes this fight so interesting. I don't think Emmett should be this big of an underdog. However, I kind of understand it. But yeah, there's so many variables here we can do. But we have 6 minutes left on the show. We need to get through under the radar.
Let's go.
Let's run through these under the radar. As you know, we talk about fighters that you might not know about, and we try to teach you about them. Pat Sabatini, Bucks County's own, right? Lancaster.
Yeah.
Versus Joe Anderson Brito. Tell me about that fight. Give me a 30-second cliff notes, and then we're gonna keep this pushing.
Yeah, Brito was on a win streak until he fought William Gomez, and I forget that this is the guy who has beaten Diego Lopez, whereas Pat Sabatini has gotten knocked out by Lopez. And Sabatini still has impressive wins, but I think that Brito is one of the best unranked featherweights, and his pacing can win it for him. I hope he doesn't go down on the ground. I think if he keeps it standing, he could probably win it.
Actually, I didn't. I just remembered. New Talents Pat Sabatini is a very good wrestler. I mean, we know this, but I think that Brito's submission skills will be the difference here, as we saw in the Jonathan Pierce fight. I think that Brito is a better striker than Sabatini and a better jiu-jitsu player. I think Sabatini's only path to victory is through dominant wrestling, which he can do. But I think that Brito has too many submissions off his back that it could spell danger for Sabatini too.
Yep.
Next up, Ratavius Ramius, another guy. Both these guys, actually, I looked at for prospect of the night. They're both really good prospects. What do you think about this fight? What do you know about these guys, Luke?
Only a little. I know that Ramius in this, I think he has a small grappling advantage, but Chang Ho Lee is a better striker and has better cardio than him. Both of them are prospect, just like you said. So I think that I'm gonna go with Lee to get it done by decision. But I could see this going either way. This is a close fight.
It is a close fight, as the odds suggest. Ramius did miss weight for this fight, which dissuades me because I was thinking about picking him going in. It dissuades me a little bit, so I'm not going to give a pick. I think Ramius' grappling will be the difference in this fight. I think that if he can keep his cardio maintained after a rough weight cut like that, then I think he'll be fine. But I do think that if it comes to the second, third round, he hasn't gotten the finish yet, I think Lee will start to pick him apart with the striking, with the cardio, and that will be the difference. Next up, Robert Valentin, Therese Finney.
Yep.
Finney's a minus 300 favorite against a guy who looked really good on the Ultimate Fighter. He was really exciting, really fun fighter. But Finney, I think Finney's unstoppable. I think he's going to be a champion at middleweight. I do. Maybe in not for a couple years, but I think he will eventually. I'm really hot on this guy. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this fight.
Yep, I completely agree with you. Finney's scary, and he's built like a prime Mike Tyson. I mean, his neck is huge. He has the widest neck in the UFC. It looks like he trained just like Mike Tyson did when he was his prime. And being ripped apart like Dana White, just how you said in the Contender Series, just makes me want him to win even more.
Absolutely. Next up, Martin Budai. This is our last one of the day, who was, in my opinion, one of the most underrated heavyweights on the roster, is fighting the debuting Uran Satibaldiev from Kyrgyzstan, 9-0 LFA champion at light heavyweight, moving up to heavyweight in order to take this fight on 3 days' notice.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much I feel like we can say about this because Martin Buday is more seasoned. He beat Andrei Arlovsky, who is a former champ. So I don't know much about Uran. I know that he's undefeated. He's 9-0, and this is his first fight in the UFC on a 3-day short notice. I just don't know what to expect for him. I'm definitely not going to get him a pick. If I were, I think I'd lean for Martin.
So look, because we're professionals here, I actually watched Salty Badiev's last fight, which was an insane fight. It's one of the best fights I've ever watched in the LFA. Ended up getting a finish late in that fight to get the championship. I think he's a really good prospect at light heavyweight, not heavyweight. Do I think Budai wins? Yes. But am I excited to see how this plays out? Yes, because this is Salty Baldiev's opportunity to really stamp himself, make himself a known factor. I know how good he can be, how good he is. So I'm excited to see this fight. With that, that's all we have for you guys today. We went out right up to time, so good for us. Thank you for watching. Obviously, this was a little interesting episode, a little contentious at times, but that's what happens the week after one guy gets everything right and one guy gets everything wrong. I've been Aiden.
It's Luke.
Thank you for watching. This is No Casuals.